Hello everyone, I hope you can hear me. Today we're going to be looking at a very useful way of planning English literature essays. This is the one key thing you can do which can raise your grade. Now today we're looking at a Frankenstein essay, but this can be used for any text. And what we're looking at is the idea of having a statement which you then prove. This does two things for you. The first thing it does is it means that you know exactly what quotes you need to use, and you're not worrying, have I used the right ones, have I used the wrong ones? You narrow it right down, and it makes it very quick and straightforward. You just know what you're going for. The other thing it does is that if you analyse well, it means that you're hitting that critical level on the mark scheme. Both for Gcse and A-level, being critical and being able to look at why things were done and the background of what happened is the key to unlocking the higher passes. So we're going to look at it using this example. This example is from Frankenstein. It says, how does Shelley explore the theme of dreams, hopes and plans in Frankenstein? But as I said before, you can use it with any text, and in fact I did correct it but it's gone back. Here this says Orwell because I've used this for Animal Farm as well. So the first thing you need to do is read the question twice. The reason why you need to do that is that you need to make sure you know exactly what they're talking about. They might want to talk about two things, or it might be an ambiguous thing, like in Macbeth, good and evil. Yeah? And so you'll need some examples of good as well as evil. So, just take a deep breath and check what you need to do. After that, underline the key words. Various schools have ways of doing that. We use cube, but the key thing is that these parts are underlined and how is underlined, because you're talking about how that will remind you to analyse the language. Now the third thing is the crucial thing. When you're thinking and annotating on your question, not your book, what the words suggest to you, you must think about what you think about them and why you think the writer used them. That is the key thing that will improve your essay more than anything else. Don't just say they are there. Don't start with Shelley presents the themes of dreams, hopes and plans, blah, 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 blah. I want to know why they are there. And then so you plan it. You think about dreams, you think about hopes, and you think about plans. Why are they there? What obvious characters, events, or quotes could go with them? Then think, right, I'm going to use my strongest. Yeah, so you think about only maybe 3 or 4. Because it's better to write 3 or 4 long, detailed paragraphs than 1 or 2 rushed, short paragraphs. And make sure for each of those that you've got a link to the whole book. So in Animal Farm you don't get an extract, but in Frankenstein you get an extract, Macbeth you get an extract, and poetry you get one of the poems printed out. So which one? What are you going to link to for your other quotes? Make sure you know the quotes. And then you decide, okay, how does this prove my point? So all of these, which you can pause and use as a guide when you're planning, how do all of these back up this, what I think? So let me just show you here what I mean. So this is the extract. I'm not going to waste time by reading it. If you are doing Frankenstein, pause now and read it so you know that this is the extract that went with that question. If you are not doing Frankenstein, just skip through. So here is what I would do for that critical bit, the bit that's red in planning my essay. I'm looking at the topic, dream, hopes and plans, these themes. And I'm thinking, what does Shelley tell us about and why? Well, essentially, Shelley tells us about a man who destroyed lives when his dreams and plans became an obsession. So they became more important to him than the people around him. So I'm not just going to say she presents ambition. I'm going to say, well, she actually presented a very strange kind of ambition that made him forget about his fiancée, who he's always going on about how much he loves her, for years on end. He went away here, he went away there. It made him forget his best friend's safety. It made him forget his health. It made him forget so many things when his ambition gets in the way of his common sense and his empathy for others. And so my statement is going to be, And I could probably adapt this, make it a bit more formal and write it out as my key part of my introduction. In Frankenstein, there is a key warning to the reader. Ambition must never be greater than empathy. So empathy is where you can see things from other people's point of view. And plans should be shared and criticised. So by criticise, we don't mean like knocked down, but if he'd shared at certain points when he has these opportunities, if he'd shared his ideas with his university tutors, with his father, with Henry, with Elizabeth, a lot of this never would have happened because they are all quite wise and could have given him wise advice. But his obsession and secrecy caused a lot of the heartbreak. That is what I'm going to write. I'm not going to use an introduction where I'm kind of going, oh, it's presented in many different ways, because the examiner knows that. That's why they put an exam question on it. So why are they there? Well, they're there as a warning. Yeah, if you get so ambitious that you start forgetting your human relationships, there's a problem. And if you get secretive and obsessed with plans and you never share them or let them be criticised, you could end up causing problems. And she tells quite an extreme story to prove that. So then you have to start thinking about what you're going to write about. Now, obviously, in the exam, you're not going to write something that looks like this. This is just me showing you in more detail. So here's my first idea. Now, remember I said have 3, maybe 4. I'm going to talk about how Victor has dreams and hopes to learn more than anyone else in the world. I grab a quote from my extract, which if you go back, you can pause and look at. Food for discovery and wonder. So we've got these words, discovery and wonder, which you could then analyse as your AO2. But I've also said this links to William's death. Because after William's death, he goes off to look at the sublime, to find peace. And that's like the opposite of his obsession with science. Because in the sublime, he sees nature and he realises not everything needs to be explained, and he goes there to find peace. So I would link it with that. And I might talk about, a quick quote about the nature, the ice. And here I'm contrasting it to food for discovery and wonder. You've got the personification of food, like his discovery and wonder eats. And you've also got these 2 words, discovery and wonder, he's obsessed with them. And so that's your method. And then you've got to think, well, why is he doing this? Well, I now know what angle I'm going to take on this because I've said it in my introduction. He's obsessed and he's not looking forward and thinking his actions might have a negative impact. Yeah? And it links to the fact that this is an epistolary novel. We know these are letters and we know it ends badly. So we can say, we've got the hindsight and he hasn't. It's a little bit like dramatic irony, but it isn't quite, because he's actually talking to Robert Walton, and so he does know it ends badly, but deliberately Shelley doesn't tell us. So it comes across a bit like dramatic irony, although it's not technically so. So I'm thinking, right, I've got my statement, I've got my quote, and a link to another bit. You don't always have to quote about the other bit. Metaphor is our method. And then we're talking about the connotations. He sees no bad side to this. It makes him really obsessed, and that's going to cause problems. This bit here is where I'm really relying on my introduction. And then finally, I'm going to go to my context and the link to the writer's agenda. A lot of people think context is a history lesson. It's not. It can be their moral about life. So even if life has changed since Shelley's time, we can still say, if you get so ambitious that you treat people badly, it's a bad thing. That's still relevant context, because that's like a social moral. So I'm going to mention how Shelley raises the danger of letting dreams become an obsession, and I'm going to link it to her experience of the Industrial Revolution, which is my little bit of history, where there was progress and it was harmful to nature and people. And I'm going to end it by saying, yeah, and Victor was harmful to people, just like these industrialists didn't think they were being evil, but they were. So here you see some example paragraphs that I've written with the class as shared work. And these just show you, if you want to pause and look at them, how that model comes through. That we're always looking, not just that it's shown, but why is it shown, and what do you and I think about how it's shown. So you might think, not, oh, enthusiasm is shown, dreams are shown. I'm going to say enthusiasm and dreams can become a risky obsession. So there's my first sentence. Then I analyse it all like that. Sorry, I clicked too early. So if you want to pause and have a look at that, you can pause and go backwards and forwards. And you can see that it's this starting sentence and this ending sentence that are almost cyclical. If you come with the idea of why is it said, and what do I think about that, and put that in your introduction instead of Shelley puts a lot of blah, blah, blah in the novel. Shelley uses language to explore blah, blah, blah. You'll find it easier to find things because you're like making a hypothesis. It's almost like in a science lesson. You're making a hypothesis, you have some evidence, you use the evidence you want to suit your hypothesis. It will make your planning quicker, and more importantly, it will make your essay more critical. So if you want to use this as a practice essay, especially if you are without lessons at the moment, please do. Go back, write down the practice essay, look at the extract up there, and have a go at it. And see how you can make it critical and all about what you think about the topic and what Shelley's message to us about the topic is.